Welcome, welcome back to my all participant and my respected resource person. आज अपने इस 10 दिवसीय सेमिनार के अंतिम दिन में मैं आप सभी का स्वागत करती हूँ। हमारा जो आज का सेशन 3 and 4 है, का टॉपिक है वो है टेक्सटाइल डिजाइनिंग एंड टेक्निक्स, जो कि आपके होम साइंस का एक अहम पार्ट है। तो आज इस टॉपिक पर बात करने के लिए हमने अपने साथ आमंत्रित किया है मंजोत कौर जी को, जो कि एसकेवी अलीपुर में वाइस प्रिंसिपल के पद पर कार्यरत हैं और मैडम का होम साइंस में लगभग 21 इयर्स का अनुभव रहा है। मैडम ने अपने इस अनुभव को हमारे साथ हमारे हर एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर, चाहे वो SCRT का काम हो या डाइट्स का काम हो, हर जगह मैडम ने हमारे साथ इस अनुभव को शेयर किया है और हम समय समय पर मैडम के इस अनुभव से लाभान्वित होते रहे हैं। तो आज इसी चीज को जारी रखते हुए हमने अपने न्यूली प्रमोटेड रिक्रूटेड PGT साइंटिस्टों के लिए मैडम को अपने इस आभासी मंच पर आमंत्रित किया है। मैं दिल्ली SCRT और डाइट की तरफ से मैडम का इस आभासी मंच पर स्वागत करती हूँ। मैडम आए और अपने सेशन को प्रारंभ करें। वेलकम मंजूत।
Thank you, Neha ma'am. I welcome all my friends today to the session 3 and 4 of SCRT Inset training. And now I'm going to share my presentation with all of you. So today's topic, as we all know, is textile design techniques. India, as we know, is a vast country with variety of cultures and arts and crafts. And beautifully designed textiles in our country are an important part of that tradition. इंडिया में डिज़ाइन किए गए टेक्सटाइल जो हैं वो पूरे वर्ल्ड में फेमस रहे हैं और इंडिया में सभी लोगों ने इनको पहना है, सराहा है, अप्रिशिएट किया है ऑलवेज। ऑलवेज बीन अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट ऑफ आवर ट्रेडिशन। आप सब ने भी कभी ना कभी ब्यूटीफुल फैब्रिक्स देखा है, अडॉर्न किया है, पहना है, अप्रिशिएट किया है। अब हम एज होम साइंटिस्ट्स we really want that we should talk about these textiles to our students. They should know about this beautiful heritage of our country. They should know what all techniques are being used, and they should be able to appreciate and feel proud of our Indian textile design techniques. First of all, I should be acknowledging all the resources which have been used. They have been used only for educational purpose and not for commercial purpose. And I thank all the owners for their rights. The contents today would be that we will be talking about the applied textile design and printing methods, their brief history, and some of the most popular methods in India like block printing, stencil printing, batik, tie and dye. Talking about the brief history, we all know that primitive man was familiar with the art of color application, as evidenced from the cave paintings and even adornment of his body. We have seen the paintings, the murals, where men and women have always adorned textiles which are beautifully painted, which are beautifully designed. And the art of textile printing in Asian civilization of India and Egypt has been found to be dated as 1600 BC. But the art of dyeing is as old as human civilization. From the historical records, it is learned that natural colorants were available to people during Greco-Roman periods, and natural colors were used to adorn the fabrics. Our Vedas, the Atharvaveda, carries description of natural dyes. The use of natural dyeing materials is also evident with the wall paintings of Ajanta, Ellora, and the craftsmen still demonstrate the efficacy of dyeing craft that had been inherited from our ancient times. Natural dyes, as we all know, they have been derived from plants or animal sources, and long and elaborate processes have been used. Some of the most common natural dyes which have been used, indigo use हुआ है leaves से, Tyrian purple from the fishes, from sea creatures, alizarin यूज हुआ है मैडर से, मंजीट रूट भी बोलते हैं इसको, पेड़ की जड़ है ये, कोकिनील यूज हुआ है फ्रॉम mollusks of Mediterranean, trees, logwood trees, the wood has been used as dyes. So all these dyes have been popularly used in India since the beginning of the civilization, since the Indus Valley civilization, and they are still being used now. With the coming up of synthetic dyes, these have somehow lost their appeal for some time. But then, when people started realizing the value of natural dyes, as they have the healing properties, as they are non allergic, they have medicinal properties, so this art has revived itself. The NGOs have helped us to revive this art, and today also the craftsmen of various regions in India are using these dyes to make those beautiful and lovely traditional creations. In the past, cotton printed textiles were exported all over the world. We had a fabulous range of beautifully colored, hand painted, and printed cotton textiles. In English, they were called as chintz, Portuguese called tado, Persia, kalamkari, Dutch, sits. All these refer to the hand-woven cotton textiles dyed and printed with natural dyes until 19th century. 1856 had seen the resurgence of the synthetic dyes. But after a century, people still realized then that the natural dyes were to be revived for their medicinal properties. The techniques of dyeing was genius of Indian craftsmen. They maintained their sole monopoly in use of blue from indigo, yellow from turmeric, brown from kutch, red from lak, safflower, sandalwood, and madder. Red, actually, the madder red was the most popular color found in Indian textiles. The hand printing received a major setback in the second half of the 19th century as the synthetic dyes were taking up the you can say the front seat of the industries because they were cheaper, they were easier to apply, but then they were found to be toxic also. So today, the green-minded consumers are looking upon natural dyes as the ecological dyes. The different printing methods we will be talking about. Printing, if we can understand printing, it is a form of localized dyeing. While the material is put in the dye bath for dyeing, printing involves the controlled application of dye in the form of print paste to a definite area onto substrate. This paste acts as a concentrated dye bath. Apart from the dye, a thickening agent is the most important constituent of this print paste. The solvents or solution assistants, fixation agents, anti-foaming agents, and other auxiliaries are also added to the printing paste. Choice of all these reagents, it is based on the kind of dye, substrate cost, and the technology which is used for color application. The basic traditional styles of printing that have been used and that are still being used are the direct printing, where there is direct application of print paste on the surface of the fabric, like the block printing, the roller printing, the screen printing also, and the resist printing style, where a chemical or a physical resist is used to create patterns, like tie and dye, batik, stencil. Now here a thread could be used like in tie and dye, or wax could be used like in batik, or a paper or any other material could be used for stencil. Prominent centers when we talk about the block printing in India, has seen four major prominent centers like Bagru in Rajasthan, then Sanganeri prints, which have been always a tradition of Rajasthan. Ajrak printing is famous in Gujarat, and we have Kalamkari of Andhra Pradesh. The speciality of Bagru printing is that it is done essentially in red color and black color. The outlines are in black and the background is essentially red. In Sanganeri print, the distinguishing part is that the base of the fabric is white and the prints are in beautiful pink, blue, green colors. Ajrak printing of Gujarat specializes in two basic primary colors, which is red and blue. Red had been taken from madder, blue was always taken from indigo. Kalamkari prints also take care of the subtle colors of nature like mustard, rust, and so on. Kalamkari is also a popular form of hand painted or block printed cotton textile and paintings, and it is practiced mostly in Andhra Pradesh. Here, a kalam or a pen is used, which involves a sharp pointed pierced bamboo, and it regulates the flow of color on the fabric. The name originates from Persian word kalam, and kari means the craftsmanship. Hand block printing has created every design into a unique design, which is different from the other design. And it is a great source of fashion in India and the world due to the stunning designs. And it is not just used for apparel, but also for furnishings. Large scale printing is happening in Rajasthan, Bagru and Sanganer areas, in Gujarat, in West Bengal, UP, and Andhra Pradesh. Talking about the technique of block printing, the first step of block printing is always the preparation of the fabric. The fabric is given a wash so that the finishes, the materials which are the dirt, the oil, which are blocking the way of the dye should be removed. The starch also must be removed. And then all the wrinkles should be ironed out. The fabric surface should be truly very, very smooth for the printing to happen flawlessly. Second step has been stretching of the fabric. Traditionally, the table is generally 4 feet wide and 15 feet long, on which the jute fabric called tart is first placed. Over the jute fabric, a blanket is placed. On the top of it, we have 2 to 3 layers of cotton fabric. So a kind of padding is made on which the fabric to be printed is kept. This padding helps in seepage of color from the block to the fabric easily. The dye is able to penetrate the fabric so that it is long lasting and the effect is good. Third step is the use of the blocks. The blocks most probably these days are the carved wooden blocks, and they are the same as the ones which were used even in the ancient times. Now they are easily available in the market as the border blocks, the buta, which is a big motif, and booty, which is a small motif, and they help in the transfer of color. The wooden pieces which are used as blocks are about 2 to 3 inches high, cut out from the base. The design is traced on the wood and the surrounding areas are chipped away so that as to make the design areas raised and so that they are able to print the design on the fabric. In the step 4, we pour the paint onto a wooden tray or a bowl. Preferably a wooden tray is used so that the color could be easily spread and the color does not smudge on the fabric. In the step 5, we saturate a sponge in a paint. We dip a piece of sponge onto the dye or the paint and dab the block that we are using with the sponge, making sure that the whole block is covered with the dye evenly. Then we block print the fabric. Keep the block on the fabric precisely and press evenly and uniformly. The way it is done in India is to slam it onto the fabric hard with the palm behind the block. We keep it there for 2 to 3 seconds and then abruptly remove the block, making sure there is no drag or jerking motion. And this way we make repeating motifs and create the pattern. Now we have to be careful that we have to wait for the first color layer to dry completely before we start the next layer. And we can use different blocks for different colors in the same design. We can see how beautifully the borders are being made. Every border, when we have to make it on the cloth, is actually the angle is bisected, the 90-degree angle. And there on one side, we can keep a resist in the form of a newspaper. And we can actually align this block in the two different intersecting lines so that the design is even, regular, and aligned properly. The final result of the fabric is obtained when, in case of natural dyes, we steam the fabric and then wash it. And then for one whole day, the fabric dries in the sun. In case of the fabric paint, which is heat setting paint, then we iron on the reverse side of the fabric. And then it is hand washed very carefully and then used. Now, the blocks that we use should be cleaned very nicely, should be cleaned thoroughly, and we should store it and remove all the moisture before storing it so that it can be reused again and again. Now here we can be so creative that we can make our own unique design by playing with different colors, different color schemes we can use, different kind of blocks, different patterns. In my own career, I have been using blocks made out of potato, sometimes made out of eraser, and many times I have also used the packaging materials. These days, when there was lockdown, I was using the bubble wrap to design many t-shirts. Different kind of colors I used to spread on the bubble wrap, and that bubble wrap became my own block. And I designed many t-shirts. And even sometimes the old cloths, sometimes the old dresses, which I am bored of, I redesign them with these blocks and with the colors which are easily available, or maybe sometimes the colors which I can find in the kitchen. Talking about stencil printing, stencil, it is made by cutting a design through a thin sheet. It can be a thin sheet of paper or any other material, and then transferring the color on the surface to be printed through the cutout of the design. Now, the origin of this technique in India, it is said, can be traced to the Gupta period, 6th to 8th century. Though even before the Gupta period, this process was used in the execution of paintings. But many evidences have been found of that period. During the Mughal and Rajput periods also, the use of stencils was done for the decoration of textile material, and it was a very popular method. Here in the picture, we can see an old stencil of Radha Vallabhji temple in Udaipur. Many such stencils we can recreate, we can make. And one more interesting thing that we can see from these stencils is that the life and times of the artist or the craftsman is so evident. These stencils speak of the life and times in which they were created. Here we can see a beautiful stencil from Mathura. In Mathura, it is truly a unique craft form that features exquisite designs and intricate picture motifs which are cut into the paper. It is believed that this art form was evidenced 400 years for 400 years in Mathura. It is that old. As a form of ritual, it began when unmarried girls they used decorative patterns and which was made out of cow dung background on house walls. This art form generally related to the temple traditions in 17th century and mostly it involved Radha and Krishna. It became a ritual design then made with forest flowers in the autumn after the rains. Intricate stencil depicting scenes of the lives of the deities was used, and this stencil was also used to make interesting rangolis. It was so finely cut, it was so intricate that it captivated everybody, and there was art and culture and this beautiful tradition that was passed down the ages. And if you go in those areas, you will find the same appeal, the same beauty of these artifacts, even today. Various materials I feel can be used for stencil. For example, ivory sheet, cartridge sheet, bond paper, discarded X-ray film, discarded photographic film negatives. For as far as devices are concerned, we can use paper cutter, stencil cutting knife, scissors, razor blades, a metal ruler could be used for cutting straight lines. Colors, poster colors could be used, acrylic colors, fabric colors, glass colors, acrylamide pigment colors, which are easily available, could be used. And we can create the magic of the stencil printing on fabrics with our students very easily. A simple method could be devised. We can select appropriate design, transfer on of this design onto the stencil materials is also very easy. We can use a tracing paper or a carbon paper. Then the stencil could be cut and we could paint through the stencil onto the fabric. Then after that, we could clean it up and the brushes and reuse it again. Let us talk about the tie and dye and batik. Tie and dye and batik are two forms of resist printing. Certain portions of the fabric or yarn are resisted or held back from taking up the print paste. In case of tie and dye, generally a thread may be used to tie certain portions of the yarn or fabric, followed by dyeing. And this technique is very commonly found in Rajasthan and Gujarat. In the technique of batik printing, generally molten wax is used to resist white or color areas. And when it is used on cotton, we are generally using the reactive dyes, the direct dyes. But for wool and for silk fabrics, we must use acid dyes as they form permanent bonds with the fabrics and they are much more durable on these protein fibers, which are woolen, the wool and the fibers or the fabrics. Talking about the batik, batik is an Indonesian Malay word. Batik is a process of decorating cloth by covering a part of it with a coat of wax and then dyeing the cloth. Molten wax is applied to the fabric with some brush or some applicator, which is then dyed at room temperature. If we dye it at high temperature, then the wax would melt and the design would not be created. So we need to dye it at the room temperature, and the cold dyes or the dyes which can be used at the room temperatures are the best suited ones. And wax, since it is hydrophobic, it acts as a resisting agent in the color uptake. One of the batik technique involves producing a crackle effect on the cloth. This can be done by applying wax on those areas where we want the cracked effect, the crackled effect. Later on, the cloth is crushed to produce this uneven effect. The color seeps into the crackled parts of the wax, and eventually this color stain produces a web-like appearance, which is uneven, and the more it is uneven, the more beautiful effect is created. Shibori is another form of a resist printing and dyeing art, and beautifully designed textiles have been seen. This art actually belongs from Japan, and the word shibori comes from the Japanese verb root shiboru, which means to wring, to squeeze, to press. It can be simply expressed as shaped resist dyeing or tie and dye. Shibori, the Japanese term, refers to many methods of embellishing textiles by shaping fabric and securing it prior to dyeing. It is dyeing with natural indigo and makes use of the resist dyeing method. Here, we use stitching, we use binding, twisting, clamping, and folding. In the left, you can see a picture in the left bottom side where the cloth has been folded in the form of triangles and some kind of weight is put to be able to resist the central part of the triangle, and the dye would not seep easily in those parts. And you can see the design is created. The dye is able to seep in the corner, in the edges, and not the central parts. The central parts are white and the outlines are beautifully decorated with blue color. So with the different types of folding methods, with the different type of stitching methods, here a stitching method called tritik is also very common, where we use small running stitches all along the pattern that we have drawn on the fabric. We pull the threads and tie it on those patterns and then dye it. And once we open that tied part, we can see beautiful patterns created, and we could see the white part in the running stitches of the outlines. The history of tie and dye also dates back to the Ajanta cave drawings in India, and they are the world's oldest records of tie and dye. The trade is still practiced, as we know, mainly in Gujarat and Rajasthan, and tie and dye continues to be adorned by the people of all castes and creeds in India, and not only India, but all around the world. Designs, they range from simple stripes to complex geometrical patterns, and they have elaborate scenes which depict the animals, plants, people, and the lives of the people. The most common technique we know is bandhani, where small dots are tied and then dyed with the help of the nails or sharp instruments. Lehriya, which is the wave pattern, it is another process in which the fabric is folded, rolled, tied, and then dyed to create stripes and complex zigzag patterns. Lehriya also depicts the waves of created by the sand in the desert. And Rajasthan, as we know, is a desert. People have been expressing their surroundings, their lives, the way of life into their fabrics. They have been expressing their emotions through their art. Colors tend to be very bright. The designs are often tied and dyed multiple times. As many times a new color is desired, so as to get unique artifacts. As far as tie and dye is concerned, we find that tie and dye is mainly of two types. One is yarn based and another is fabric based. Now, when yarn is tie and dyed on the basis of the resist principle, it creates beautiful patolas of Gujarat, pochampallis of Andhra Pradesh, and ikkats of Orissa. When it is created on fabrics, then we can see Bandhani effect of Rajasthan, which is the most famous, and the Lehriya form. Here in the picture, we can see tie and dyed threads which have been used for pochampallis and patolas. And on the right side in the picture, we can see fine dots which are tied with fine threads and then they are dyed. The thread tying, it is quite tightly done so as to resist the fabric in white color. Now, I would like you to discuss with me some of the techniques that you have also used with your students and you have a vision of using them so that your students can also appreciate the arts and we can distinguish different kinds of arts by their different styles, by different colors, and make use of the available resources also which are there, especially with students. We have to introduce these arts and we have to actually appreciate these arts and recreate them in some way by using the available resources. Let the child innovate, let the child use the resources in their surroundings. So, please, if you would like to share, it would be great. What kind of blocks would you think a child could or your student could create from
Ma'am,
their.
for students, it will be very easy to create blocks from vegetables, like
Yes, that's wonderful.
sponges.
The packaging materials which go waste around us can also be used, I feel.
Yes, ma'am.
And what kind of different colors would you like to use? And if you could give your own suggestions, how we can further use these techniques in our laboratories, in our classrooms, children can use them at their home and in the recycling of waste. Sometimes we can use this craft as a recycling or upcycling of the waste cloth lying at home and also to uplift the mood and also to channelize that energy that children have and create their own masterpieces which are unique. And children can also use crafts from their own regions to which they belong. जब वो अपने अलग अलग रीजन्स और कल्चर्स के आर्ट्स को भी इंक्लूड कर लेंगे अपने मास्टरपीसेस में, दैट इज द टाइम दे विल फील मोर हैप्पी and when they will appreciate the art forms of the other students also. But we have to keep on inspiring them and we have to keep on guiding them and suggesting them. The innovation would come from them also. Could you please write your reflections in the chat box? Any of you? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, audible.
Okay, thank you. So please keep on sharing. Yes. Yes, blocks made of cardboard could also be used. Even that is also a very good option. We can use,
And even we can use thermocols also.
yes, pieces of thermocol, sponge, and wonderful new effects would be created. How many of you would love to do stencil printing with your students to decorate their file covers, or probably they would like to decorate their dupattas using stencil printing?
That is a very good idea. We will definitely
Yes.
like to try that.
Yes. But we have to be careful while using sharp tools. We need to be a little bit careful that we do not hurt ourselves. And we could be wearing gloves also to save our hands. What about using different forms of tying, using, for example, different kind of pulses that are available in the kitchen to create different tie and dye effects? Children love to do that and they love to explore. And we need to allow them different variants of the tie and dye methods. Let them explore and innovate. Innovative methods would bring about that creative realization of their talent. We never know what we are going to create next, because we can really not replicate these arts. We can only improvise on this. Some styles can be used, because these methods actually, they were very elaborate, they were very laborious, and to exactly recreate that beauty may not be possible, but simpler versions, new versions could be created. Some people are saying that they are not able to hear my voice. Am I audible, please? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. थैंक यू सो मच. और कुछ आप लोग शेयर करें रिगार्डिंग दिस टेक्सटाइल डिजाइन टेक्निक्स, कि हम इसको कैसे बच्चों को अप्रिशिएट करना सिखा सकते हैं. कैन वी होल्ड सम एग्जीबिशंस इन द क्लासरूम? Some kind of exhibitions can we hold? And when we go to Delhi Heart, and when we hold tours, when we hold various fashion shows, or we can have a virtual tour also, or craft melas, when we ask our children to go to Pragati Maidan and see the craft melas. There they can go and appreciate, and they can note down some designs and techniques of these wonderful fabrics of India. How many of you would like to create some of these arts in the form of exhibits and have exhibitions on, probably on future annual days? We could have exhibition of these crafts. We could have children wearing those garments and performing. And in some way or the other, we need to appreciate, to bring about the artistic values in our children. We could develop the aesthetic values of our students and our own selves also. We can develop our own values related to these crafts. All right, now we will move on to some more different varieties. after the break, and we can all think more, we can all reflect more.
मंजोत मैम, आपका शायद माइक जो है वो म्यूट हो गया है, उसको प्लीज अनम्यूट कर लें। आपकी वॉइस हम तक नहीं आ पा रही है।
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible? Yes.
You are audible.
Okay, shall we continue, ma'am? Shall we continue the session?
Yeah.
All right. Let us talk about the bandhanis of Rajasthan. And in this picture, we are able to see those small little dots on those sleeves of this lady who is wearing a bandhani blouse. In the background is the black color, and the dots are in white color, and they look so pretty and so nice. And this, as we know, this bandhani date back to Indus Valley civilization, and it's an ancient art practice. Now, we also know that areas like Jaipur, Udaipur, they are practicing this art, Jamnagar also, and not only just the dress part, but the turbans, the furnishings, and many other textiles are embellished with these arts. Bandhani is also known as bandage, and from the early days, the preferable dyes that are used, they are the roots, the dyes from the roots, from the flowers, from leaves, from berries, and from many flowers, many kind of seasonal flowers, that is safflower, marigold, from onion skins, from red cabbage, sage, indigo. It is said to be therapeutic. The colors that are extracted from the natural things in our environment have medicinal properties. So when the fabric comes in contact with the skin, it is said to, the medicinal effect is said to get absorbed in the skin. Unlike these synthetic dyes, which are somewhat allergic to our skin, we feel somewhat a little sometimes the allergic feel of these synthetic dyes does not make us that comfortable. So these kind of the revival techniques which have been followed to bring about the natural dyes on the textiles of our country should be also be revived by us when we create these things in our classrooms. Bandhani has always been popular for its fine resist dots and its intricate designs. Bandhani generally features patterns like dots, stripes, waves, or squares and diamonds. The other motifs which have been created by outlining with tiny dots are animals and human figures, flowers, plants, and trees. The red color, as we can see, has always been considered very auspicious. So marriages per, ceremonies per, red color is always used. Even nowadays, Bandhani dupattas are very famous for use by the brides, for the ceremonies, and for all happy occasions. Saffron color is the color which has been worn by the saints, by the yogis of our countries always. And this is also a happy color used for all the ceremonies. Yellow has always stood for spring. It's a happy spring, cheerful color. And this has also been prominently used in the bandhanis. The motifs are also very, very interesting, as we have seen, and they have a hidden meaning also. Elephants, now we have seen, are being used in this purple dress or the purple garment, and it symbolizes water, fertility, royalty, regal flower, regal power. Fishes, they are potent fertility symbols. They indicate abundance of food, wealth, and children. They also denote the generative powers of the supernatural. The Ambi design or the paisley design, as we can see in this magenta dress, is also a symbol of fertility, and it has always been used in the traditional garments. About the lehriya, now this, as we know, comes from the word wave, leher. And in Rajasthan, there is always a leher which is prevalent when you see in the desert the sand moving, the sand dunes moving from one place to the another whenever there is a storm. The rippled patterns are created, therefore, by tightly rolling the fabric and tying it at intervals to resist the dye. The fabric used is both cottons and silks. And especially in India and especially in Rajasthan, it has been used for the pagdi or the turbans and in women's saris, etc. Steps of lehriya are also very, very simple. The fabric is rolled and tied at intervals with a string. Now, the string, it is said to be tied very tightly, as it is shown in the image. The lady is rolling and tying the cloth so that the dye does not seep in those areas where we don't want it to go, and rest of the area is dyed in the color that we want. Here, the area where we want to dye the cloth in is being steeped in the dye, in the yellow dye, as we can see here. And lot of manipulation is required. The fabric has to be thoroughly seeped. The fabric has to be thoroughly stirred in the dye so that there is even absorption of dye onto the fabric surface. There should not be any part of the fabric which remains patchy or which should not be dyed properly. So, lot of manipulation of the fabric is done into the dye bath. And after the dye is actually absorbed by the fabric, then the fabric must be untied, it should be washed, and it should be retied if we want another color on that fabric. Let us move to Ajrak painting. The Ajrak painting actually originated in Sindh and Kutch. And in Ajrak painting, there is use of dark colors, which is evidenced by the red and the blue colors, which are famously used. And this is done by the use of resist methods or the resist style of printing. As the name goes, Ajrak came from a story, the word came from a story where one of the kings was so happy with this print that he told his servant that let us keep it today. Aaj rakh le isko. He wanted to say that the textile is so beautiful that we should be keeping it and it should not be changed again and again. So also the meaning of the word ajrak as coming from the Arabic word means blue because of the colors of indigo being used in this. It is also believed by some that it also means making beautiful. In 16th century, this art form became an occupation for the Khatri community in Ajrakpur village and in the Barmaid village of Rajasthan. Again, natural dyes were traditionally used. Indigo dyes, which we obtained from the indigo plant. Red, obtained from alizarin. Black, obtained from iron shavings, millet flour, molasses. And tamarind seeds were generally used for thickening of the dye paste. And it also helped in the darkening of the colors. Crimson blue, crimson red symbolizes the earth. Indigo blue symbolizes the twilight. And black and white were used for the outlines. Stages of Ajrak printing and the traditional technique, we could see that the first stage was Saj no Marhalo. It was called so by the local folksmen. The fabric is washed by soaking in soda ash, the castor oil also, and this is done in order to remove all the impurities. A natural softener was used on the cloth. This was camel dung. This used to make the fabric a little glazed and soft so that dye could be easily absorbed. Later, it was dipped in water and it was beaten with wooden beater. And sometimes it was also beaten with the foot to make it even more vibrant, to make it even more soft, and so that all the impurities could be removed and dye could be easily absorbed by the porous fabric. So the white cloth was washed and prepared like this. Second treatment that was given was the mordant treatment. This is called harad treatment or kasanu. In this, the harad, which is the nut of a plant, was powdered and it was used to fix the different dyes, and so it was used as a mordant. It used to make the cloth, it used to give the cloth a little yellow color, and it used to help the dye and the cloth bind with one another, because the mordant active groups, it helped the dye to attach to the fabric easily. All these processes were then performed, soaking the fabric in harad or the myrobalan solution, pounding the fabric with the feet, removing from the solution, drying, then beating the dried fabric to dust off extra harad powder. So a lot of hard work and a lot of patience was required to do this mordant treatment. Then there was rake or outline printing. Gum arabic, जिसको हम बबूल का गोंद भी कहते हैं, and lime, which is the material used in whitewashing, the slaked lime, that is the calcium oxide, and the aqueous form of calcium oxide, they were mixed so as to create white outlines with the help of big wooden blocks. So the dried rake printed fabric we can see in the picture, where the white outlines have dried up and they have taken their shape on the fabric. The fabric was dried in sun generally. To give black outlines, gum, ferrous sulfate, fuller's earth, and water that was used to make black outlines. This was called as cut. These cut printed areas would turn into permanent black color on treating with indigo. Then there was fully or can printing, in which there was resisting of small star-like areas where tamarind seed powder is mixed in alum and then boiled for 1 hour to produce a thick printing paste. Alum, which is potassium aluminium sulfate, is also a mordant, and it helps in the fixation of the dye, the colors to the fabric, which the fabric would otherwise not absorb easily. Then some amount of fugitive dye or the kesari rang is added to separate this paste from other printed resist pastes. This kesari rang is fugitive color because it is not permanent, and with time it will fade. Now then the fabric is stamped with this paste. Another step was Dutch or Kaur printing. This was also resist block printed design was created. How it was created was that first printing part was called as Kaur printing, where a resist paste was prepared. How this paste was prepared? It was prepared from alum, gum arabic, millet flour, and red clay. And then even today, this is being done in the same way as it was done in the past, that all this together is stamped on the fabric with the help of a filler block. Then later on, the stamping of resist paste made of lime and gum arabic was also done. These two steps combined are called as gutch printing. On this resist printed fabric, before it was dried, traditionally, powder of dried bakrini lindi, which was goat excreta, is sprinkled, which prevent the smudging of the design. And nowadays, wood powder or sawdust is also used so that the design is retained on the surface of the fabric and the dye does not disturb this design, and this stands out in the background of the dye. We can see here in the picture that sawdust or the wood powder is sprinkled to avoid smudging. The next step was indigo dyeing. Natural indigo is used, and nand, which is a V-shaped container that was dug in the ground, is used for dyeing purpose. The indigo along with Kuvaidiani beech, which is Cassitoria seeds, is added in the nand containing the water and is left for months for growth of bacteria. Then the fabric is dyed in it for 10 to 15 minutes, after which the fabric is dried in sun. Now we can see this fabric, which is so captivating to look at. The two colors which are prominently seen, the yellowish color, which is given by the alum or the fitkari, and the blue color of the indigo. The fabric is so distinctive that it can easily be distinguished from any other kind of textile design. The next step is the vicharnu or the washing of the cloth. The indigo dyed fabric is then washed in running water and laid flat to dry in the sun. Here, the fabric is not vigorously rubbed and the core resist is not removed, and hence the resultant fabric remains a little stiff. We can see after washing of the indigo dyeing process, the print is very clearly being shown. And yellow areas we can see wherever the alum has left its color. 10th stage is where the cloth is now boiled with dharina fool, which is the galls of the tamarisk, and majit. Majit is the root of a plant to give the red color, and sufficient amount of water is added in a metal container which is fixed on a stand. And this has also got a traditional name called charu of rangchul, where 2 to 3 hours it would take for the cloth to absorb this color. Again here alum, which is fitkari, acts as a mordant to help fix the red onto the fabric. Madder here gives an orangish reddish color, which is very bright and it contrasts with the blue color. The fabric is then washed in running water and dried in sun. Steps from 7 to 10 are repeated once again to get brighter and more brilliant shades of red and blue. Multiple rounds of indigo dyeing are performed. As we know that once or twice the color would not get absorbed so easily because it's a natural color. So it needed multiple rounds The dyeing process was repeated again and again to give brilliant colors that could not easily fade away with time and that would stay. And the appeal of these colors was timeless. The fashion that they created was not transient, but it was long lasting. And these kind of fabrics, these kind of textiles are always in fashion. We can tell our students that their appeal is never lost. They are our classics. And we should always feel proud of these beautiful, traditionally made, designed fabrics of our country. Talking about ikat. Ikat is derived from this Malaysian word called manjikat, which means tying a knot. Tying a knot on the fabric and then creating the design. Earliest evidence of this artwork could be seen again in the Ajanta cave paintings, where the murals were seen wearing and adorning these kind of textiles. It is a yarn resist technique. Here, the tying is done before the weaving of the fabric, and then the yarns are first resisted, they are dyed, and then the weaving is done to create a pattern. Characteristic feature of this artwork is the blurred pattern. At the edges, where the two colors meet, the outline is not very sharp, it is blurred, which is due to the resist dyeing of the yarn. And popular regions where ikat is being practiced today is Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Odisha. Ikat has been classified into various categories. The three main categories are single ikat, double ikat, and combined ikat. As we know, the longitudinal fibers of the fabric are the warp fibers, and the horizontal fibers which interlace to form the fabric are the weft. So whenever the warp yarns are tie-dyed and woven with plain solid colored weft, it is called as warp ikat. And when the weft ikat, the bana yarns, the warp yarns, as we know, are the tana of the fabric, and weft, in Hindi we call them the bana of the fabric, are tie-dyed, and when they are woven with plain warp yarns, it creates a weft ikat, which we can see in the pattern on the right corner. Right top corner, we have the magenta and white zigzag pattern, which has been created by these techniques. The third form is the double ikat. In double ikat, both warp and weft yarns, they are tie-dyed according to a predetermined pattern. And then they are woven to create clear designs on the fabric. There is another form which is combined ikat. Here, both warp and weft yarns are tie-dyed, but then they are present in selected areas of the textile, so as to create very interesting patterns. Some of the motifs we can see here, and the names also are particular of that region. In Gujarat, this ikat is called as patola, and this is seen in their textiles, in the saris, in the furnishings, in all the decorations. Then bandhas is the name given to the ikat of Odisha, and ikat actually is the word used mostly for the textiles of Andhra Pradesh by the name of Telia Rumal and Pochampalli. We can see here the pictures of these different beautifully created textile design fabrics of India, and we can appreciate them again and again, and they have this undying appeal and timeless appeal which will never fade away. About the patola of Gujarat, the textile is produced by the weavers of the Salvi community mainly, and they tend to use expensive silk yarns. Patola saris are therefore very expensive, and the textiles which are produced have very bright colors like bright red, golden yellow, green, dark blue, reddish brown, etc. They are also considered to be very auspicious, and they are worn on special occasions like weddings and festivals. And the expensive patola saris are the prized possession of every Indian woman and every modern Indian woman also. And they are generally reserved for ceremonial occasions. The motifs are also very, very interesting, and the motifs talk about the lives of these artisans. And because they were mostly associated with the nature, they would reproduce the items in the nature, the natural surroundings in their artworks. For example, basket of flowers, chabdi bhat. This is the name given to the basket of flower design. Phool wali bhat. This is the name given to the floral design. Navratan bhat. So wherever a jewel mosaic kind of design was created, the name was given Navratan bhat. Whenever there was an elephant, it was called as kunjar. And wherever there was a parrot, it was called as popat. And wherever there was a lady, it was called as the nari. When you could find all the three together, they named it Nari Kunjar Popat Bhat. That means the lady, elephant, and parrot design. So these were beautiful designs created by first tying and dyeing the yarn and then weaving it. Bandhas of Odisha are also the exquisite patterns created by the craftsmen where single ikit or combined ikit technique is used, and it is woven by specific weaver groups like mehras and patras. The ikat saris of Odisha are popular attire of the local women there, and they are also preferred by the modern women of India also. So whenever we go to the crafts museum, whenever we come across these crafts in their native regions, we tend to buy them and we tend to keep them as our prized possession. Besides the cotton and silk ikat saris, the other products that have been woven by these weavers are the yardage, the dress materials, stoles, scarves, dupattas. The characteristic feature which we can tell our students, which distinguishes the ikats or the bandhas from other textile design fabrics, is the hazy outlines. The outlines of the motifs are never very sharp. They are merging into one another. They are hazy, and that is what creates the beauty, and that is what makes them inimitable. We cannot actually make the replica of this so easily. We can only make improvised versions. We can only create some part of the beauty of this textile. Ikat from Andhra Pradesh is generally differentiated into Telia Rumal and Pochampalli. Telia Rumal is the age-old ikat technique, whereas Pochampalli ikats were introduced later and they were always inspired by the Telia Rumal. Telia Rumal originated in Chirala, which is a coastal village in Andhra Pradesh. It is a square rumal or the handkerchief measuring around 1 meter square. And it gets its name from the important ingredient which was used in it, that was the tel. And it was used in the preparation of the rumal, and hence it is called Telia Rumal. Now, traditionally, this Telia Rumal was produced by the weavers belonging to Padmasali community. Telia Rumal also became part of the fisherman's clothing as they were wearing it in the form of a turban or as a lower garment called lungi. And the design specifically contained the geometrical motifs and the curvy linear motifs of flowers, of representing sun, moon, stars. The colors were mostly red and black. The red is the terracotta red, which we can see in the terracotta pots also. And the colors used, the dyes used were natural dyes. Double ikat technique has been used in Telia Rumal. The layout of the typical Telia Rumal comprises of a geometrical grid-like patterning. And thereby, there are small squares which are created at all the four corners. From simple geometric designs like crosses, dots, and diamond shapes. We can see curvilinear forms like flowers, birds, animals, star, moon. So whatever was there in the surroundings of the craftsman was represented. If the life was peaceful, it was beautiful, there was nature, the designs of this nature were abundant in their work. It could be seen in their work so easily. We can also see the designs like swastik motif. We can see the lion motif also. And this is still being used in those areas. Still the same method is being used. In the Pochampalli kits, we could see that in earlier 20th century, the Telia Rumal weavers introduced this ikat technique to the Padmasali weavers of Pochampalli. Pochampalli, as we know, is a village near Hyderabad. The Pochampalli weavers applied this technique of ikat, weaving to saris, to dupattas, and many other dress materials. The different colors that they were using were, and which are still used, are magenta, brown, parrot green, bright golden yellow, orange, off-white, black, etc. The uniqueness of Pochampalli ikat lies in the smoothness and neatness with which it can design onto the fabric. It is also using double ikat, and the minute detailing gives it a very, very captivating effect. We cannot get our eyes off such beautiful pieces, such beautiful masterpieces. So today we have really come across some beautiful textile design fabrics of India, which have always captivated us, which have always inspired us. And we can recreate some of these techniques with the locally available materials around us. And we can use them with our students, and we can learn more about them from the references that are there. And now I would like you to share with me how you have also come across these techniques, where you have come across these techniques, and how you would like to introduce these in the form of group activities with your students, how you would like to create some of these art forms, how you would like to actually appreciate, and how our students can feel proud of the great Indian tradition and culture. Please, you can share in the text as text in the chat box, or you can talk and you can share. You can unmute yourself and share with me. Kindly discuss. Yes, anybody? Participants, can you listen to me? Is my voice audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please. I would like sharing from all of you. It would be wonderful if we can talk about it. And you can tell me the ways in which we can use these art forms and how we can appreciate them more and more in our classrooms with our students. Please kindly share. What are the different block printing techniques that you have actually used with your students? In what way can we use designs from ikat fabrics? Because there are beautiful designs that are there, and those designs could be recreated. How you could use stencil printing, how we could use natural dyes with our students. Yes, we know that's very nice. We can use vegetable block printing. Supriya, that is very nice. Development of new products, and we can refurbish old garments. Is there a way we can use natural dyes also? Do you feel we can encourage children to use natural dyes? Things which are available in the kitchen like turmeric or indigo, like cinnamon bark. Tanu is sharing use of different motifs in natural dyes like beetroots can be done. Beetroot juices can be used. Shrutika Verma asked them to prepare crafted products for their family members. Yes, children can gift and they can pay gratitude to the family members. Beautiful. Haldi could be used. We can have virtual exhibition of students' creation. Wonderful. Development of new products. Yes.
Ma'am, I have a query.
Yes, please ask me.
Ma'am, use natural dyes like these days. Also, we are telling the students to use natural dyes while using tie and dye. So,
Yes.
is there a solution for the color fastness of the fabric?
Yes,
That's it.
yes, yes, there is a solution. Actually, we have to take care when we are using natural dyes. For example, haldi is quite hydrophobic. जब हम हल्दी को पानी में उबालते हैं, तो then we need to boil it for a very long time to make it a concoction. उसको एक काढ़े के रूप में बनाना होगा. And then we have to have actually boil the fabric for 1 hour. एंड अनदर थिंग, टेक केयर कि जब आप फैब्रिक, और बच्चों को बोलें कि जब वो फैब्रिक खरीदते हैं मार्केट से, तो उसमें काफी कुछ इम्प्योरिटीज होती हैं, फिनिशेस होते हैं, स्टार्चेस होते हैं जो कलर को उस पर एक्चुअली में एब्जॉर्ब नहीं होने देते. तो वी हैव टू टेक केयर दैट वी हैव टू रिमूव ऑल दोज स्टार्चेस, ऑल दोज फिनिशेस. The fabric must be boiled for 1 hour at least, and then after that, it has been observed if we add a little bit of acetic acid in the form of vinegar, that really helps in the fixation of the color. And another interesting thing which I want to share is that when the color fades with time, what our ancestors used to do was they used to dye their fabrics every year. It was a very eco-friendly kind of thing that every year the fabrics used to be dyed, and they used to did not throw away those fabrics. They were reused again. And a lot of fixatives, natural fixatives like alum, like fit curry, like salt, like I told you, the vinegar was being used. So these things can be used now also. We can encourage children to use natural things. Some other questions? Some other queries? Yes.
Dyeing the fabric and
Yes.
vinegar be put along with the haldi.
Please come again.
Ma'am, while they are following the method of tie and dye, and they are dyeing fabric using haldi, so can
Yes.
vinegar be put along with it in the boiling water?
Preferably, do not put vinegar in the beginning. Once you have dyed the fabric, for example, you have dyed the fabric and the fabric has absorbed considerable amount of color. You can see bright yellow. Then bring down the temperature and then use vinegar for another 15 minutes. So you can take actually 1 hour 15 minutes, and then the color that you would get is going to stay. And try one more thing, please. Tell your children, tell your students that you should not dry this natural dyed fabrics directly in sun. They should be dried in shade, because see, haldi is one dye that would get oxidized. Even with time, with the naturally also, it will get oxidized and it will get faded. But if we dry it in sun, that process will become faster. So we need to dry it in shade. And secondly, we need to use soda-free washing agents. Try to use easy on those fabrics. Do not use soda-based soaps or detergents to retain good color. For example, when we use beetroots now, Then also we can make sure that because these colors are quite pH reactive, we should not be using vessels which react. We can use stainless steel vessels. We can use things made out of terracotta. We can use a mitti ka bartan for boiling. That would also help. Some other questions? Some other queries? Some other sharing, please? And you can also innovate by using different things which have not been used earlier. But for example, when we go out in the garden these days, we see there are colorful flowers, there are petals. One nice way would be that if we use those petals, we use those natural colors, we would tie those natural colors in the fabric, use a thread, and then boil it. These petals then would leave their color while boiling, and we would get nice soft shades of these. The impressions of these petals, impressions of these natural things would come on the fabric. This is also being used recently by many designers to create new and innovative designs. Whatever is there in our surroundings can be used. We can create textiles according to the modern designs also. Have you ever tried blue flowers of Aparajita in dyeing? Try them sometimes. The effect is great. They give you a purple color, a light purple color on the fabric. And again, once we have to retain that color, we have to take precautions. We should not be drying it in sun. We should not be using harsh detergents on them. Even for our good garments, for our good textiles, we are using easy detergent. We are not using the detergents which are commonly like Nirma, which has a lot of soda in it. So we have to preserve these arts also. We have to tell our students to preserve these arts. These are delicate, fragile things, but they are beautiful. They are unique. And all the things which are unique, they also need a lot of care also. So some of you are asking, can you suggest more natural dye options? Yes, definitely. Natural dye options are endless. The names are endless. See, when we are using different kind of, you can say, leaves at home, we can see green color from the leaves. Even that is a very good dye. Palak could be used. I believe any other greens could be used. Definitely, with some kind of patience, with the kind of patience that you have, you can actually get those beautiful colors. You have to boil it a lot with cotton. With your silks and with your wool, the dyes are easily absorbed. But with cotton, they take the time. With cotton, they take more of boiling, more of high temperature methods, and the effect is lovely. Actually, the effects are, you cannot predict the effect. Once you get the effect, you feel you have created something unique, something nice, something which cannot be replicated. If you ask children to create, they would come up with many new options which we could not even imagine that they could come up with such options. My students used to create things they used to create blocks from erasers which they had in their pencil box. They would engrave that eraser and they would cut out different shapes, and they would be using things in their kitchen, and most commonly used pulses could be used for tying and dyeing, and a lot of new creations would come up every day. Stencil designs, yes, wonderful. Some of you are saying ask them to create stencil designs. This is nice. Lady fingers could be used. And yes, another thing, we could actually dye the fabrics, the cotton fabrics, again and again to get a rich color. Maybe with one dye bath, with one dyeing process, the color would be a little faded. It would not turn up to be so bright. But if you dye it again, maybe next day after drying it again, you can dye it once again, and maybe the third day if you dye it again, the color would be brighter. ऐसा होता है कि एक बारी में कलर उतना अच्छा चढ़ेगा नहीं, तो उसको जब हम फिर सुखा लेंगे और फिर दोबारा डाई कर लेंगे एंड थर्ड टाइम फिर डाई कर लेंगे, तो वो फास्ट भी होगा, वो कलर रिच भी आएगा जैसा कि हम चाहते हैं. मैरीगोल्ड्स, यस मैरीगोल्ड्स, अनियन स्किन. So we are so creative that we can think of endless options and we can come up with new things. And yes, I really appreciate your vision when you are saying that ask them to prepare a crafted product for their family. This is wonderful. Please, all of you must share this and all of you must create something new. And textile design traditions should move on like this. The timeless appeal of this, because of which it is famous all over the world. And we are exporting these kind of garments. And the whole world is looking up to us for the techniques, for the designs, for the motifs. This tradition should continue. Our children should love this tradition. They should always value it and appreciate it more and more. The modern is always there. The modern creations, the mechanization, the technology is always there to give us some easy options. But we should not forget the heritage of our country, which has passed down through the generations, and the designs and motifs still retain their appeal. ये motifs वैसे के वैसे हैं जो सदियों पहले भी इस्तेमाल होते थे. The colors, the natural dyes, their medicinal properties, for which they were famous all over the world and people were appreciating us, and they are still there. The appeal is still there. और वो हमारे पास वो जो अपील है हमारे बच्चों के अंदर भी वो आ जानी चाहिए. वो एस्थेटिक वैल्यू, वो नॉलेज, वो अंडरस्टैंडिंग हमारे बच्चों में भी उतनी अच्छी, हमारे होम साइंस के स्टूडेंट्स में भी उतनी अच्छी आ जाए जितनी हमारे में अब आ रही है. जितना हम अप्रिशिएट कर रहे हैं इन सब आर्टिस्टिक थिंग्स को, वो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स भी कर पाए. ये हमारी आशा है आप सबसे. एंड थैंक यू सो मच for being there, all of you, for appreciating this art, for hearing me patiently. And down the line, we will meet sometime and we will have workshops together. We will be doing this practically and we will be creating something new and we will be remembering these moments of sharing with one another. One of the sharing is so good. I'm reading it. Envelopes and paper bag were made by my students. Renu Tyagi ji, this is wonderful. कि envelopes और paper bags आपने बनाए students की मदद से, और vegetable block printing use की, okra use किया, onion, potatoes भी use किए इसमें. And cold dyes, I think pastel shades can be used very easily for tie and dye. मैंने कई बार एक्रेलिक कलर्स बहुत यूज किए हैं, फैब्रिक कलर्स बहुत यूज किए हैं बच्चों के साथ हैंकरचिफ्स बनाने में, टेबल मैट्स बनाने में, कुशन कवर्स. बच्चे बहुत इजीली उनको प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हैं बिकॉज दे आर वेरी इजीली अवेलेबल इन द मार्केट, द फैब्रिक डाइज. और उनसे भी बहुत अच्छे क्रिएशंस हम लोग कर सकते हैं, टेक्सटाइल डिजाइन्स क्रिएट हो सकते हैं. Anybody else would like to share? Thank you so much.
थैंक यू मनोज मैम. आपका जो सेशन था वो काफी इंटरेक्टिव रहा, जैसे कि मैं चैट बॉक्स भी देख पा रही हूँ. और अभी भी जो आपका टेक्सटाइल पे रहा, टेक्सटाइल की ईच एंड एवरी आस्पेक्ट को आपने आज हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स के साथ शेयर किया, उनका मार्गदर्शन किया कि किस तरीके से अगर उनके पास टूल्स भी नहीं है तो वो किस तरीके से अपने आप ब्लॉक्स बना सकते हैं, नेचुरल कलर्स का वो कैसे यूज कर सकते हैं बच्चों के लिए। इमोजीज मैं देख पा रही हूँ चैट बॉक्स में, तो उससे हमें पता चल रहा है कि हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट ने कितना इस सेशन को एंजॉय किया और लर्निंग ली। अभी मैं अपने आप को गौरवान्वित महसूस कर पा रही हूँ कि हमारे साथ हमारे एससीईआरटी के एकेडमिक हेड डॉक्टर नाहर सिंह जी जुड़े हुए हैं। तो मैं उनसे आग्रह करती हूँ कि वो आए और हमारा उत्साहवर्धन करें। सर, मैं डाइट मोतीबाग की तरफ से आपका इस वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पर पीजीटी होम साइंस के प्रोग्राम में आपका स्वागत करती हूँ। ये आप आए और हमारा उत्साहवर्धन करें। वेलकम सर।
थैंक यू नेहा। और हमारे जो भी नोडल ऑफिसर्स हैं, रमा श्रीवास्तव और अपने डाइट मोतीबाग की प्रिंसिपल साहिबान, इन सभी के सहयोग से, और जो हमारी टीम इनसेट है एलसीआरटी की, आप सभी लोगों ने मतलब जो है कोविड के दौरान जो मेहनत की, और अपने टीचर्स को एक तरह से मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि जिस तरह से हमने लोगों को प्रशिक्षण के लिए तैयार किया, और बहुत सुंदर तरीके से, क्योंकि ये 10 दिन का प्रोग्राम कम नहीं है, बहुत होता है इंडक्शन, क्योंकि जब लोग एज ए टीजीटी से पीजीटी बनते हैं, या जो लोग सेवा में नहीं होते और आकर के डीएसएसपी के थ्रू एज ए पीजीटी ज्वाइन करते हैं, तो बहुत सारी, क्योंकि देखिए जब हम एक विद्यार्थी जीवन को निभाते हैं और जब हम एज ए टीचर काम करते हैं, दोनों में अंतर होता है। और एक तो होम साइंस के लिए मैं एक बात कहना चाहूंगा कि आप अपने अपने जो प्राचार्य महोदय हैं, स्कूलों के जो प्रधानाचार्य हैं, आप अपने पीरियड को कम मत कराइए आप बच्चों को, क्योंकि होम साइंस लोग ये सोचते हैं कि शायद ये तो जो है खाने पीने के वो है, कोई बात नहीं, 2 पीरियड कर दो, 4 कर दो, 3 कर दो। जबकि मैं ये मानता हूं कि ये पूरी तरह से लगभग 70% साइंस है और 30% डोमेस्टिक जो भी चीजें हैं वो उसमें शामिल होती हैं। तो जो अपने विषय की इंपॉर्टेंस बनाने में और मैक्सिमम बच्चों को मोटिवेट करना कि वो जो ह्यूमैनिटीज या और दूसरे सब्जेक्ट के बच्चे हैं, वो केवल इसको केवल अंक बढ़ाने के लिए, या जैसे हम कहते हैं ना कि एडिशनल सब्जेक्ट में होम साइंस न लेकर के उसको फुल फ्लैश्ड रूप से आप अपने बच्चों को मोटिवेट करिए और उनके साथ पूरी मेहनत करिए। और जिस तरीके से आपने देखा है कि थ्योरी और प्रैक्टिकल के लिए अलग अलग आयाम है, प्रैक्टिकल के मार्क्स ज्यादा होते हैं, थ्योरी के कम होते हैं, लेकिन मेरी टीम के जो भी मेंबर्स यहां पर आज जुड़े और जब से ये कार्यक्रम शुरू हुआ है, आपने देखा होगा कि हमने थ्योरी और प्रैक्टिकल दोनों ही एस्पेक्ट पर बराबर का जो है योगदान दिया है, और कोशिश की है कि हमारे जो अध्यापक हैं वो जो है खुद प्रैक्टिकल करके देख सकते हैं। ठीक है, वर्चुअल मोड में है, लेकिन जो भी हमारे रिसोर्स पर्सन रहे उन्होंने पूरी मेहनत की है, और मैं सुन भी रहा था कई सारे अपने रिसोर्स पर्सन्स को, इससे पहले भी प्रोग्राम हुए हैं, आज भी कई सारे प्रोग्राम चल रहे हैं। मैं तो एक ही बात कह सकता हूं आप लोगों से कि आप हर रोज कुछ न कुछ पढ़िए, और किसी भी कार्यक्रम को सफल बनाना हमारे अध्यापकों के लिए बहुत एक चुनौती भी होता है और आसान भी होता है, लेकिन आप इस काम को आसानी से कैसे कर सकते हैं, मैं इस पर 2-3 बातें कहूंगा। पहली बात तो यह है कि क्लासरूम मैनेजमेंट बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रांग होना चाहिए। अगर आपका क्लासरूम मैनेजमेंट अगर ठीक नहीं है, क्योंकि जब एक शिक्षक पढ़ाता है तो जो क्लास का आखिरी बच्चा होता है वहां तक अगर आपकी बात पहुंचती है, आप उसको मोटिवेट कर पाते हैं, तो इससे बढ़िया बात नहीं हो सकती। दूसरा है मोटिवेशन। मोटिवेशन 2 चीजों में होता है, एक तो सीखने सिखाने के लिए मोटिवेशन हो, पेडागोजी कई बार हमारा वही रहता है, लेक्चर मेथड जो है उससे बच्चे नहीं सीखते। अब ये जब बात हो गई पुरानी, किसी भी चीज को कैसे ट्रांजिट किया जाए और बच्चे आसानी से उसको सीख सकें। ये आपके अंदर कला होनी चाहिए, और ये कला तभी आ सकती है जब आप खुद मोटिवेटेड है विषय को पढ़ाने में, उसको समझाने में, और बच्चों में बच्चे किसी भी विषय के साथ इंटरेस्ट कैसे लें। अगर तुम ये सारी चीजें अगर मेरा टीचर करे, और तीसरी चीज होती है कम्युनिकेशन, और कम्युनिकेशन शिक्षक बनने के लिए और शिक्षक का कार्य करने के लिए, देखिए बनना और काम करना दोनों में अंतर है। जब हम एज ए ट्रेनीज काम करते हैं, तो कुछ बच्चे, हो सकता है कुछ टीचर बीएड भी हो, कुछ ऐसे भी हो सकते हैं कि जो बीएड भी नहीं है, लेकिन आपका अगर कम्युनिकेशन बढ़िया, आपने बहुत सारे नेताओं को देखा होगा, आपने देखा होगा एक पुराने समय में जब इंदिरा गांधी की स्पीच आती थी तो लोग वहीं टिक जाते थे, खड़े हो जाते थे। फिर उसके बाद में दौर आया अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी का, लोग सुनते हैं। आजकल कोई भी नेता ऐसा नहीं है जिसके लिए खड़े होकर के लोग सुने, क्योंकि उनके कम्युनिकेशन में, बहुत सारे नेता तो हमारे ऐसे हैं जिनकी बात ही समझ में नहीं आती। लेकिन आप देखिए कि जिस तरीके से हमारे ऑनरेबल डिप्टी सीएम साहब या हमारे जो चीफ मिनिस्टर हैं, वो जब भी बात रखते हैं वो बिल्कुल क्लियर कट बात होती है। और हमेशा सरकारी स्कूलों के लिए किस तरह से हमने जिस तरह का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर या दूसरी चीजें आपके लिए लैब्स, ये जो चीजें बनाई, इससे हमारे विषय का और प्रचार प्रसार हो रहा है। तो कोशिश करिए कि आप अधिक से अधिक बच्चों को होम साइंस देने के लिए मोटिवेट करें। दूसरी चीज, काम बेहतर हो इसके लिए आप अपना प्रदर्शन भी करें। आपकी जो लैब है, जहां पर आप बैठते हैं, वहां पर जो है आपकी बहुत सारी चीजें एक शोकेस की तरह से नजर आना चाहिए, पता लगे कि हाँ अमुक यहां पर होम साइंस टीचर है जो बेहतर काम कर रहा। और जिस तरीके से, और देखिए अपनी, वैसे तो ये सब्जेक्ट मिसलेनियस कैटेगरी में आता है, ये हुआ, फिजिकल एजुकेशन हुआ, ड्राइंग हुआ, लेकिन और लोगों को जिस तरीके से आपने देखा है कि जो स्टेट अवार्ड्स या दूसरी चीजें मिलती हैं, आप भी अपनी पैरवी खुद करिए। हम तो पैरवी आपकी हमेशा करेंगे। और जब आपका काम बेहतर होगा, तो चाहे आप होम साइंस के हैं, जिस भी विषय के आप टीचर हैं, आप अच्छी मेहनत करते हैं तो आपका नाम विद्यालय में नहीं होता, आप तो आपके जोनल लेवल पर, आपके डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पर और स्टेट लेवल पर भी होता है। मैं बहुत सारे होम साइंस के टीचर्स को जानता हूं कि जो कि पीजीटी बाद में वाइस प्रिंसिपल और प्रिंसिपल तक पहुंचे। तो मैं तो एक आपके लिए यही कह सकता हूं कि आप मेहनत करें, अपने बच्चों के, जो हमारे स्कूलों में गरीब बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, उनके उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए अथक मेहनत करें और अपने विद्यालय का नाम रोशन करें, उसमें आपका भी नाम रोशन होगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू नाहर सर। आपके इन्हीं शब्दों से हमें आगे काम करने की एक उत्साह मिलता है और एक मनोबल मिलता है कि हमारे जो सीनियर्स हैं वो हमारे साथ हैं और हमेशा हमारे साथ बने रहेंगे। इसी कड़ी में मैं कहना चाहूंगी कि मेरा जो ये ग्रुप रहा होम साइंस का, मेरे दोनों ही ग्रुप 1 और ग्रुप 2 सर, डे 1 से कंटिन्यूअस पूरा ग्रुप हमारे साथ है। और जितना हमारा रजिस्ट्रेशन था, पूरे रजिस्ट्रेशन के जो हमारे टीचर्स हैं सारे हमारे साथ ग्रुप में रहे और इंटरेक्टिव सेशन बनाया। हर सेशन में इन्होंने जहां भी हमने एक्टिविटी रखी, फुल्ली पार्टिसिपेट किया उन एक्टिविटीज में। तो होम साइंस के टीचर्स जो हमारे न्यूली प्रमोटेड और रिक्रूटेड हैं, ये बहुत ज्यादा मोटिवेटेड और मैं कहूँ कि बहुत एंथुजियास्टिक हैं कि अपने काम को लेकर। और इस सेमिनार को सफल बनाने में इन लोगों का बहुत योगदान रहा। एक दिन भी मेरा एक भी पार्टिसिपेंट ऐसा नहीं रहा कि वो सेमिनार में ना जुड़ा हो। थोड़ी सी भी तकनीकी अगर प्रॉब्लम आई तो उन्होंने उसको उसी टाइम रेक्टिफाई किया और उसे सॉर्ट किया। तो मैं इस चीज के लिए मैं अपने पार्टिसिपेंट्स का धन्यवाद करना चाहूंगी। और इसी के साथ मैं डॉक्टर रमा श्रीवास्तव जी को, जो नोडल ऑफिसर के रूप में मेरे साथ, मैं उनके साथ कार्य कर रही थी, उनको आमंत्रित करना चाहूंगी कि वो आए और हमें 2 शब्द कहें। वेलकम रमा मैम। थैंक यू नाहर सर।
सभी को नमस्कार। और सर, मैं आपका बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगी, इतने बिजी होने के बावजूद भी आपने आके हम लोगों के साथ जो आपने हम लोगों के साथ शेयर किए हैं, उससे हम लोगों की बहुत हौसला बढ़ता है। क्योंकि हम लोग मेहनत तो करते हैं सर, लेकिन हमें ऐसा लगता है कि जब आप कुछ कहते हैं तो फिर वो लगता है कि नहीं सही, हमारी मेहनत का हमें फल मिल रहा है। तो आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और हमारे जितने, जैसे नेहा ने कहा है, मैं सारी बात का डिटो करूंगी। बहुत अच्छा ग्रुप था, बहुत अच्छा अनुभव था। और सर इसके लिए SCRT और आपका धन्यवाद, क्योंकि वर्चुअल ग्रुप पे जब सेमिनार कराने की बात आपने सोची तो हम लोग सबको लगा कि संभव नहीं है, लेकिन ये आप ही थे जिन्होंने कहा कि नहीं ये संभव है, और आपने इसको संभव करा। तो ये आपका ही मोटिवेशन है, आप लोग के साथ जो एक बोलते ना पुश है, पीछे से जो आप धक्के और जो हम लोग को ज्ञान देते हैं, रास्ता दिखाते हैं, उसी से हम लोग आगे बढ़ते हैं और हम लोग सफल होते हैं। इसलिए सर आपका बहुत 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 धन्यवाद, और सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स का बहुत धन्यवाद। और उम्मीद है आप लोग भी इस प्रोग्राम में बहुत कुछ सीखा है, और जो सर ने गोल्डन वर्ड्स कहे हैं हमें, उसमें हम अमल करेंगे। तो सर आपका बहुत धन्यवाद, सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स का धन्यवाद, और उम्मीद है फिर जल्दी हम लोग मिलेंगे सर। और
थैंक यू वेरी मच, थैंक यू रमा, थैंक यू और नेहा को, और हमारे सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स जिन्होंने इस 10 दिवसीय कार्यशाला को अटेंड किया है। और इन फ्यूचर आप लोगों को कभी भी कोई परेशानी हो, जो भी मेरे शिक्षक साथी मेरी आवाज को सुन रहे हैं, आप कभी भी चाहे तो डायरेक्ट मोती बाग से आप बात कर सकते हैं, रमा जी से कर सकते हैं, नेहा से बात करें, मुझसे बात करें, SCRT में आप मेल भी कर सकते हैं, आप फोन पर भी बात कर सकते हैं। अगर आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम अगर नजर आए तो जो भी बात आप संज्ञान में लाएंगे, हमारी टीम जो काम कर रही है, हम तो लोग जो है चाहे डाइट में है या SCRT में, हम सब लोग जो है टीम एजुकेशन के लिए, दिल्ली की जो टीम एजुकेशन है, हम उसके लिए काम करते हैं। और हम चाहते हैं कि जो हमारे चाहे तो दिल्ली सरकार के स्कूल हों या लोकल बॉडीज के हों, हम चाहते हैं कि उनकी पहचान पूरे देश में नंबर 1 पर रहे, ऐसी मैं अपेक्षा करता हूं और हमेशा कोशिश करता रहूंगा।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू रमा मैम। और इसी के साथ अंत में मैं धन्यवाद करना चाहूंगी अपने सारे रिसोर्स पर्सन का, जिन्होंने पिछले 1-1.5 महीने से मेरे साथ लगकर, रमा मैडम के साथ लगकर हमारे इस पूरे प्रोग्राम के कोर्स डिजाइन को, कंटेंट को, जहां जहां पर हमें जरूरत पड़ी उन्होंने हमारे साथ काम किया। तो मैं अपने सारे रिसोर्स पर्सन, चाहे वो जनरल टॉपिक के हों या हमारे होम साइंस के हैं, वो हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, उनको मैं तहे दिल से धन्यवाद करती हूँ कि उन्होंने इस प्रोग्राम को सफल बनाने में हमारा साथ दिया। और सर आपसे मेरा एक अनुरोध है कि आप 2 मिनट अगर देंगे तो मैं एक स्क्रीनशॉट लेना चाहूंगी आपके साथ, और अगर आपकी इजाजत हो।
नहीं नहीं, बिल्कुल लीजिए।
सारे
कैमरे बंद है।
नहीं, मैं सर वो ऑन करवा रही हूँ। सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स प्लीज अपना जो वीडियो है उसको ऑन कर ले।
अलका जी ने तो बड़ा देर लगाई है ऑन करने में।
सर थोड़ा सा जब एक साथ वीडियोस ऑन हो जाते हैं तो नेटवर्क की वजह से प्रॉब्लम भी आ जाती है, कई बार किसी का हो जाता है नेटवर्क इशू की वजह से। हमारे साथ हमारे सारे रिसोर्स पर्सन भी यहाँ पर जुड़ी हुई हैं, मंजू मैडम है, मंजोत मैडम है, प्रतिभा जी हैं, हमारे सारे रिसोर्स पर्सन अभी हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं।
और जितने भी आप होम साइंस वाले लोग हैं ना, आप ये साबित करो कि हम होम साइंस के नहीं, हम फिजिक्स और केमिस्ट्री के लोग हैं, ये साबित कर दो स्कूल में, पुरस्कार मैं दूंगा फिर आपको।
सर यही तो चीज है, इस सेमिनार को करने के बाद मुझे भी बहुत लर्निंग रही, और आई थिंक लास्ट में हम इनको होम साइंटिस्ट के नाम से, होम साइंस टीचर्स ना मान के होम साइंटिस्ट के नाम से हम बात करते हैं अभी इनसे, क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं होम साइंस में सारी चीजें आ गई हैं। जब मैंने इस पूरे सेमिनार को अटेंड किया तो सिर्फ ये फूड तक सीमित नहीं है, टेक्सटाइल है, टेक्निक्स है, आपका जितनी भी सारी चीजें इसके अंदर, आपका हेल्थ इश्यूज है, वो सारी ही चीजें इसके अंदर है। तो हम इनको होम साइंटिस्ट के नाम से अब कहना शुरू किया है। तो होम साइंस एक बहुत ही अच्छा सब्जेक्ट है, और इसको हम जितना प्रमोट करें हमारे लिए वो ज्यादा अच्छा रहेगा आगे के लिए हमारे स्टूडेंट्स के लिए भी।
जैसे आईसीटी में होता है या दूसरे सब्जेक्ट होते हैं, बल्कि इसको जो है होम साइंस की जगह अगर आप सारे लोग अगर थोड़ा सा रिक्वेस्ट करें डिपार्टमेंट से, तो इसको जो है होम टेक्नोलॉजी का भी वो दे सकते हैं, क्योंकि इसमें तो बहुत सारी चीजें आ गई। फिर आप लिखें अपने को जो है लेक्चरर इन होम टेक्नोलॉजी। यस,
सर
देखो
आपकी
जितना
सोच
हम
बहुत अच्छी है।
जितनी हम छोटी सोच रखते हैं उतने छोटे विचार आते हैं, जितना हम बड़ा सोचेंगे उतना बड़ा आएगा।
सर आज गर्व हो रहा है कि हम लोग होम साइंटिस्ट हैं।
बिल्कुल, और चौड़े होकर आ करो थोड़ा सा, देखो होम साइंस वाले हो तो।
मुझे ये अपॉर्चुनिटी दी इस ग्रुप के साथ जुड़ने के लिए। पिछले 2 साल से आपने मुझे होम साइंस के साथ जोड़ा हुआ है, तो मैं अपनी तरफ से धन्यवाद कहना चाहूंगी कि आपने मुझे ये अपॉर्चुनिटी दी है और इतने अच्छे लोगों से और इतनी नॉलेजेबल चीजें जानने का मुझे मौका दिया। थैंक यू नार सर, and thank you Rama ma'am, and thank you to my all participant and my respected resource persons कि उन्होंने इस प्रोग्राम को, and special thank to रितु मैडम डाइट मोती बाग से जिन्होंने इस प्रोग्राम को कोऑर्डिनेट करने में मेरी हेल्प की, and thank you to all for making this program successfully. Thank you.
ओके।